Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of The Humblist. It's your boy Dante here, leading the way with my man V. How you doing, V?
I'm doing okay, and I'm doing really good. And before we get started, I want to dedicate this show to our team member Jody Lewis.
Yeah,
It's been a challenging week for her, and this show is dedicated to her, and we're sending her all the good energy and all the love in the world. So, want to
that's
make sure I do that off the top, because if I don't do it now, I won't do it, because we have a jammed-packed show today,
right.
my friend.
Right, we got a big show today. So this is the cover-up episode, the much-anticipated cover-up episode. One of
Woo, woo.
the most engagement, one of the most engaged topics that we've had when we throw out there so far. So thank you everybody out there who's been joining in on the conversations on social media. We've seen some great engagement. We'd love to see that. So I'm really excited. You excited about this, V? I know you've been
Yeah.
doing a lot of work, man. You've been doing a lot of work on this.
Yeah, well, I've been really wanting to have our guest today on for many, many weeks. And I just thought, it was the right timing, just the way our schedules kind of lined up, the topics that we were talking about, like you said, the cover up episode. So it's a
Yeah.
great thing that we have Byron Pascoe, who's a music lawyer. That's going to be exciting. And then later on in the show, we're going to go through those best covers that everyone introduced. And then, of course, we have our indie feature. So,
Right.
Maddisun, yeah, it's going to be great.
All right, well, so we're going to be switching up a little bit this time. We're actually going to jump into the interview first before we're talking about our cover songs. We got our man Byron on standby here with us. V, you ready to throw him in here? Throw him into the fire?
I think we're ready to bring Byron on. I think this is going to be an epic one. So everyone who's out there, get your questions ready, because Byron is a legit professional music lawyer, and yeah, he's got lots of great content for you. So without further ado, let's bring on Byron. And there
Hey,
he
guys.
is. Hey, Byron.
Nice to see you.
Welcome to
Yeah.
the show. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us here on the Humblist on a Sunday afternoon, giving up some of your Sunday. How are things going up in Ottawa?
Well, I had to be quick at IKEA so I could get here in time for you guys. And I think the entire city of Ottawa, where I'm based, was there today. So
Yeah?
I'm glad I made it.
Well, we appreciate you giving us some time. It's a beautiful day, too. I know you'd want to be out there enjoying it, but if you can spare us some help,
Yeah.
because we have a lot of people out there that are tuning into this episode because they know that you have a lot of information that can help out. We introduced you a little bit off the top there as a music lawyer, but for a guy like me, that's pretty vague. Can you kind of summarize what is a music lawyer?
For sure. And it may help to give maybe a bit of background, too. So my background is that I did a business degree at Laurier, and then I spent 5 years running a television production company with some friends. And then I went to law school with the plan of being an entertainment lawyer, which I've been doing for the last 6 or 7 years. So
Okay.
I work at a law firm called Edwards Creative Law, and we do only entertainment. So we work with producers of television shows and films. And on the music side, I work with writers, performers, producers, managers, music companies, festivals, music entrepreneurs generally. So a music lawyer, really, a lot of what we do was what I would call transactional, meaning that we review music agreements and we prepare music agreements. So if people want to work together in music, whether it's two co-writers or a manager and an artist or a record label and an artist, I help people to review those agreements and I help people to write those agreements. So that's what a music lawyer, for the most part, does. He or she also helps their clients to understand the music business ecosystem, to get a better understanding of royalties, to deal with conflicts that arose, to get permission to do stuff, that sort of thing.
So were you, like, is this what you wanted to be when you went to school? Like, were you an avid musician guy, but you also loved law? Or, like, how did you combine?
For sure. Well, I was actually more on, like, the production side, like film and TV. And so, so I mentioned, like, my background was producing television programming. So for about 5 years, I worked with two very good friends to produce comedy programming here in Canada. That was viewed like all over the world. It was big on MySpace, and it was like an early YouTube, like basically the biggest kind of early YouTube prank program. Now there's a lot more of that stuff, but we were there at the beginning. And the next phase was to go to law school to become an entertainment lawyer. And really, the focus was more so on the production side, like the filmed stuff, like television shows, films, that sort of thing. I'm not a musician. Many music lawyers are musicians. I'm not. My brother's a musician, but like I'm not. And so really, it wasn't specifically to become a music lawyer, but really an entertainment lawyer more broadly. That's why I went to law school.
And V, you that's where you guys met, right? Is that right?
Not law school. I didn't get that far.
You didn't talk bar?
No, definitely not. We went to Laurier together, and I don't know how I found out that you were into music. I must have seen something like. Do you recall? I can't really.
Well, I do a lot. I try to be active on social. Posting blogs that I write. I try to do things like this just to kind of have conversations with people about music law issues and topics. And so I'm sure through something that I posted years ago, we reconnected and have been in touch. And we were chatting about this this video series and about the Facebook group generally, and that brings us here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm again so thankful that you're doing it, because I think a lot of people in the Humble and Hungry community are a lot of them are emerging artists. And I think that's what we really wanted to hone in today was, what can emerging artists do? What do they need to know about working with a music lawyer, and when would be the right time? Why is it beneficial? If you could kind of touch on those kind of things.
Well, I think actually before I say anything more, I should probably say that just for clarity, this is not anything I say is not legal advice, but rather legal information. So the other go-to line for insurance purposes is that if you have any questions about legal advice, please consult with a lawyer.
There you go.
So yes, and Byron's not charging us, so get your questions in while you can.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah,
legal information.
Get them in, yo.
But your question was like how to deal with a music lawyer, but really it comes down to how to deal with the people you're working with. And that isn't the lawyer. That's your co-writer. It's your producer. It's your manager. It's someone who's trying to find placements for you. It's the person that you're using a sample of. It's a person whose song you're covering. The lawyer's role is to help you to navigate that process and to get things simple in place with people so that it reduces the likelihood of conflict later on. A common thing is that people work with their friends. Their friend let's say their friend isn't really a manager, but wants to help out their buddy. And this is someone you trust. And so they, are learning alongside of you to become your manager. Or it's someone who, went to a program like Fanshawe or, at Algonquin, like a music industry arts program where they learned some stuff like, your selfie, or someone who did a program at the Audio Recording Academy, or one of the studios, places where you learn how to be a producer. There's a lot of opportunities to learn how to play different roles. But at the beginning of your career, you're realistically working with your friends. And, hopefully nothing ever comes up that would cause a conflict with you and your friend. But, unfortunately, sometimes money gets in the way and causes disputes and causes things to, kind of go off the rails. And if you have very simple, clear written arrangements with people from the outset, it reduces the likelihood that you'll be in a conflict with someone later on.
Well, so that's good that you were to say here, because actually, V, I want to say this off camera. But let's work out a negotiation right now between you and me having to do with this show. Because we're just friends. You're exactly
right. But
you don't want to ruin the friendship. I was going to say that at our Monday
meeting.
Don't cut me
off, man. Don't cut me off. Put that.
We
in
have a Monday meeting.
In the language there. Write that in.
Well, but this brings up an example. Let's not talk specifically about Humble and Hungry or the Humblist, but if two people or three or four are working together on something with the aim to make a profit, they're considered partners in a partnership, at least here in the province of Ontario. And the Partnership Act, which I'm sure neither of you have read, because who reads that? Never heard of it. That's fine. But there are laws that relate to partners in a partnership. And so if the two of you and your other people on your team that put everything together, it would probably be a good idea for you people to talk about, like, well, do we all own this together? What happens if one of us wants to leave? If we're making money from this, how are we splitting it up? How are we sharing costs? So it's like, the more likely example is you have a band. And so you have a band, let's say there's like a rock band, and there's 4 people, and, if you don't really, well, if you're making music together, and you're trying to record, you're trying to tour. Well, you can't tour right now, but you're trying to do things together. Legally, you're a partnership of the 4 of you, but might be that it makes more sense for one person to own the project, own the band, and everybody else is hired by that person. But if you don't actually agree to that one person owning everything, arguably, the bass player or the drummer or whoever, if they're not the lead person or whoever else, says, listen, I'm a member of this partnership. I have just as equal ownership as everybody else. I have just as equal say as everybody else because we're partners under the law. That's not, that is an argument that somebody can make. So in that situation, if you're the leader of the group and you write everything, you're the one who's spending all the money on expenses, and you're the one who's actually taking it seriously, compared to other people, you want to make sure that you own the project, if that makes sense for your project.
Right.
So, back to your question, V, it's like, really, what is the role of a lawyer? Really, it's like, well, what are the interactions between the people who are involved? Your producer, your manager, your co-writer, and I think we'll kind of speak to, each of those things individually very briefly, but at the end of the day, you want to plan for success as an individual. And, if you're planning for success, then you are assuming that the song you write with somebody is going to do well. You assume that the recording you make with someone else produces is going to do well. So you want to make sure that you have clarity, something agreed, ideally in writing, between the people you're working with, to ensure that, if the song makes, $100,000, that you're not going to all be fighting over it. If the song makes 5 cents or $5 million or somewhere in between, you all know exactly, how money's being split up. You know how decisions are being made. So,
do you find that a lot of people coming to your help have difficulty understanding that premise, or have you seen relationships cause friction? Has this caused friction between bands? What I mean, like navigating that friendship and business relationship.
It's a very hard line to walk, and with management agreements, I find that I spend more time on like management divorces than managing marriages. Like, oftentimes people should have spent a bit of time, proactively figuring out their arrangement, and it ends up turning into a situation whereby people need to get lawyers involved because they didn't figure things out proactively. So the related comment, Dante, is that it's what I say to people, and what I'd say to you guys and your viewers is, there can be awkward conversations to be had with people. You can blame, the lawyer you saw on, the Humblist, of like, oh, maybe we should talk about this. This lawyer guy said we should maybe talk about a professional relationship. But it's a lot better to have an awkward conversation today than losing a friend and being, dealing with lawyers in future.
Right.
And if you're planning for success, then you're assuming that the music you're making with people is going to actually be an audience and be your career. So that's my thought on that.
I feel like musicians are just I don't know if it's like a laziness thing, or if it's just like, like this is art, and like we're just you know what I mean? Like, we don't think about, I think a lot of musicians don't think about the business side of things a lot of the time. And I don't know why.
Though. I don't think it's laziness. I think it's just you don't know what you don't know. And you kind of, people make assumptions that things will, be fine. But you know what assumptions do. And there's that, but it avoids conflict. if back to that 4-person rock band situation, if they decide proactively that every decision needs to be agreed to by at least 3 of the 4 people, then that makes life a lot easier, because everyone agreed proactively to something. And if you're the odd person out on deciding about something, are you going to I don't know, like it kind of depends on the situation, but like if you're the 1 out of 4 and you don't agree with something, well, you agreed earlier that you would accept the will of the majority. So it's like, well, I can't really fight too much about this, but I should try to convince other people that they should agree with me, and it becomes less aggressive.
Right.
You've agreed to a decision making protocol. And so if you're in a band with people, one of the ways to deal with this stuff is to have a band agreement between the 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10 of you. I wrote a blog called The Band Agreement or something like that. You can just Google like my name and the band agreement, and it has like 50 questions that you can think of to talk to with people in your band. And it really comes down to control and money, like how you're dealing with expenses, how you're dealing with revenues, how you're dealing with decisions and decision-making processes.
Wow, it's a lot to unpack there, and yeah, you're right. I mean, but that's a necessary conversation, and even for something as simple as V and I, like doing this show, like we should probably even think about something like that too, if we're ever trying to grow this thing anywhere really. So that is sound advice to really sort of take a look at that business side, because it is fun to be creative and fun to be artistic, but it sucks when you have to pay for your art or lose it completely or lose the opportunity to create.
Yeah. My related comment there, Dante, is that like if you do things after the fact, you're usually giving up more than you would have given up if you did it proactively. And so kind of an example is that if you're working with a producer who's, let's say you're in hip hop and you have a producer who's creating a beat for you, and they just kind of give you the beat and you use it and the song becomes successful.
Right.
However you define success, and success is defined differently by everybody. But let's say the song is successful. Yeah. If you go back to that producer and say, "Hey, can I get the rights to use this?" You're likely going to end up giving that producer a lot more than you would have given him or her if you asked when you got the beat. When you got the beat, you may have said, "Hey, can I pay you something and fully own this and not have any obligations to you?" Or can we set it up so that I control things, but I'm giving you 10% of what I earn?
Right.
Like something like that. But if you're going back to them, months, years later, and the song is made like $10,000 or $100,000 or somewhere or anything, you're likely going to end up giving that person more than what you would have had to give them originally to get their rights. Right. The challenge is that, if you record, let's say, 10 songs or 100 songs, you have no idea really usually which one is going to be like the one that really matters.
That's right.
And so, back to the planning for success thing, it's important to try to plan for success with everything you do. Sometimes it's just not realistic, and sometimes you have to kind of focus on what you think is most likely to be, economically appropriate. But just kind of the general mentality of, okay, I'm working on this thing with this person. If this becomes successful, what do I wish I would have done, now? And a lot of it just comes down to, how you're sharing money that might be generated, how you're deciding on, who makes decisions about this work.
Wow, man, that's great content and great stuff for our community to know. We could probably talk to you for like an hour and a half, but we're really tight on time this time. Yeah. So we're going to keep in touch. But I do know you have, again, bringing it back to the emerging artists, you have like a top 10 list that all emerging artists should consider.
Yeah.
Did you want to go through that, and I can put them on the stream?
I'm just going to give like a sentence or two about each of these top 10 things. And for each one of them, there's other kind of blogs and videos I've done about some of these things, but let's just have some clear takeaways. So these are 10, at least let's say 10 of the top considerations for emerging musicians to keep in mind. So protecting what you created, number one. The key related thing here is what triggers copyright. And what triggers copyright is having something that you are fixing in a tangible form. An idea is not protected, but if you record a song or write a song, it's protected. You don't have to get it registered with anything. You want to take any ideas you have and make them tangible. Record them, write them. That triggers protection.
Awesome.
I'll leave it at that. Number two, the composition. So who are your co-writers? What are you each entitled to? A common tool here is a split sheet. And a split sheet lists the people who were involved in a composition, the lyrics, the music, both, and what their percentages are. And if anyone wants me to send them a draft, like a sample split sheet, you can just send me an email and I'll send you a split sheet that you can use. My email has been up before and it'll be up again. Or you can just email or Google me or whatever, but I'm happy to send you that. So composition is the lyrics and the music, and what you want to do is define who is entitled to what percentage out of 100% of that composition.
Beautiful.
Number three, the recording, which is sometimes also referred to as the master. So, who owns the actual recording of your song? And generally speaking, if you're an artist and you go into a studio and a producer presses record, they own that recording until they give it to you. So in every producer agreement, which we'll get to in a second, maybe let's segue there right now. Number four is the producer. So
I have co-writers. Maybe.
Oh,
okay,
sorry. Okay, co-writers. So I'll stick on the recording. Number three. So for the recording, you want to make sure that you own the recording, and you want to get the right to own the recording from the person or people or company who made the recording. So oftentimes it's a producer who grants his, her, or its rights to you, the artist, to own the recording.
How inclined are producers to give up that? Why would me as a producer ever want to give that up? Because any one of these songs can be a banger.
Sure. So great point, Dante, and it kind of leads to a couple of things. Number one is that if I'm a producer and V is the artist, I might give V ownership of the recording, but there are still entitlements that I'm getting. For example, maybe I'm getting 10% of the royalties that are generated from that master, or 5 or 15 or whatever. So just because I give ownership to V doesn't mean that I'm getting nothing else. It just means that he controls it, but I'm still legally, kind of contractually entitled to a percentage of royalties that master generates. So ownership, if I give up ownership, it does not mean I give up royalties. It means I'm giving up control and ownership in that recording, but I can still and should still, depending on the circumstances, everything is it depends, but I should still be getting, I can still get royalties even if I give up ownership.
And the recoupables.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a variety. It's a whole other discussion about different formulas for royalties. But if V is paying me to produce a song, and he pays me, let's say, $1,000 to produce a couple songs for him, or whatever it is, ideally, if he's giving me a royalty, then before he pays me a royalty, he gets to earn back the money he already paid me, or part of it. But that's part of the formula. There's a variety of formulas of how an artist might pay a producer.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off there. I know V's got a beautiful smile going on, but I think he's actually frozen.
Yes,
there.
he is frozen. So
that's a great time to freeze him, though. We should use that as
great
cover art for some of our stuff. So hopefully he joins us again.
It could have been worse. It could have been a lot. It's very nice. Okay, number 4 though is co-writers. So
sorry to that point though. V's in control of those comments, so it might not be able to cycle until we get.
Okay, well, that's okay. So number 4 in our top 10 list is co-writers, and I kind of spoke to this already in composition. But really, a co-writer might be someone that you write with, or it might be someone who creates music and you're creating the lyrics, or it might be someone who creates a bit of a beat, or a bit of a bridge, or a bit of a hook, or a word,
Well, what
Um,
a word? Like, how much does constitutes a co-write
well,
to get that title, to get that
sure.
acknowledgement?
So the bottom line is that you want to have a very simple or not so simple agreement with everybody who potentially was involved. And if you write a song, Dante, and I'm like, here's $300 for whatever, but
Right.
I want you to list me as a co-writer. Now I'm a co-writer, even though I didn't actually write anything. So,
Right. But if you
or
get it nominated for that Grammy, you're going up on stage as a
right,
co-writer.
right, or I could ghostwrite it for you, and I could say I'm going to write all the words. You're going to pay me something, and
Right.
now it's going to say written by Dante. So just because I actually wrote or didn't write, that doesn't mean that that's what the actual writing credit and writing percentages will be. It really um, it comes down essentially to what you agreed to. However, if there is no arrangement, there is no deal or agreement between us, and I actually did write words, my argument would be that I am a co-writer because I wrote words, or my
Right.
argument is I am a co-writer because we decided we would go into studio and write a song together, and I brought my piano, and you brought your a story about something that happened in your life that we want to write a song about, and I'm going to write this piano part, and you're going to bring some words, and we're going to talk about it and create a song. So we had the intention of creating a song together. And if you say, okay, thanks for your help, Byron, have a nice life.
Hey,
Hey, man, he's
Can
on
you
his
hear me
own.
okay?
He's on. Hey, there we go.
Can you
We're
hear me
back.
okay? We're back.
how long were you guys there?
Dante and I were talking for about a minute, and then I was on my own, but I saw that it said my mic was muted, so I just said, I'll wait for you guys to come back.
Thank you.
So,
I appreciate that. Yeah,
all
I
good.
don't know what happened. It just got booted. So where were we?
So we're on number 4 with co-writers, and Dante and I were talking about kind of, what essentially one way to put Dante's question is like, what is the minimum contribution I need to make in order to be considered a co-writer? And the answer really is it could be nothing or it could be a lot. Preferably, what you do is you say to everybody who is involved in the lyrics and the music, and you say, okay, everybody, and everybody might be 2 people or it might be 10. You say, okay, we were all involved in this. What's our split going to be? Let's put together a split sheet and we'll confirm what everyone's entitlements are. I worked on a song once that had like 50 writers, which was like ridiculous. But most times it's like 2 people, 3, 4. If there's a featured artist, then that person likely wrote their lyric. If there's a producer in hip hop who did the beat, like they are a writer. If you have a producer who's contributing creative ideas, that person is usually considered as a percentage of to get a percentage of the composition as a co-writer. So, I mean, in Nashville, it's like the Nashville split's like whoever's in the room gets an equal share. In other situations, you just kind of agree to what the split will be. And the bottom line is that no matter who is involved, no matter what their involvement, clearly clarify in writing, very briefly on this split sheet that I'll send you if you want, what everybody's percentage is. It's the simplest way to deal with it, so you avoid the conflict of later on someone saying, well, I see you only put that I get 1% of the song on SoCan, but I wrote half the lyrics. Like, you don't want to have to deal with that later on, and that happens. So again, it's very easy and free to clarify the song split with people at the time, and it saves energy later. So producers. So I mean, as you can tell, a lot of these comments really kind of overlap together. But a producer could provide different types of things in different scenarios. I keep talking about hip hop, but like a hip hop producer very often creates the beat, whereas in other genres, less so. It just kind of depends on the circumstances. So what you want as an artist is to ensure where relevant, that you're clarifying what you're paying to the producer, what they're actually doing, what the fees are, what the fees are for the producer, when they're being paid those fees, what percentage of the composition the producer is getting, if any. You want to clarify that the artist owns the master. Those are a few considerations. I wrote a blog called, the producer agreement or something creative like that. If you just search my name and producer agreement, then there's more. But, I think that a lot of people have a producer, less so than someone who has a manager or a label or a publisher. And so the producer-artist relationship is really important to understand, because for many artists, they will have a producer at some point, but they probably won't have a record label or a publisher or some other big partners. So you want to make sure that that you are clear with your producer about what his or her rights and obligations are, and what your rights and obligations are. And
did you ever have problems with your producers that you've worked with? Have you ever had to have these conversations?
No, I mean, like, we have, like, it's been a lot of like assumption, like just towards, like, I guess late last year, I started kind of working on like agreements a little bit, and I'm getting a little bit more versed in it now,
Right. Here's the assumption that is made, and I'll be brief if I can. But like,
yes, please,
an artist assumes that she's paying the producer a fee, and that's all she'll ever have to pay the producer. And the producer's assumption is that if this song does well, I'm going to make money off of this song.
Right.
So think about it. The artist thinks that, first off, she thinks she owns the master, even though it may not have been transferred in writing. And the producer feels that, what he's getting from the outset is just like, the tip of the iceberg if the song does well. So what you want to clarify with your producer and everybody else, but your producer in this situation, is you want to clarify what the producer is getting now, who owns the recording, what the producer would get later if the song makes money,
right.
what the credit is, what the song is.
Right.
Also, if you're giving your producer, let's say, $3,000 to produce an album, and it's a 10-song album, and you got $3,000 from your Uncle Jimmy to do this album, and don't give $3,000 up front to the producer. You probably want to pay them part up front, part later. But if you're paying them, let's say, $1,500 today and $1,500 later, is that $1,500 later on being paid once you get the tracks from the producer, or once you like the tracks you got from the producer? Because if you want some changes being made, then does that cost more? You just want to clarify, like, what the actual things that the producer needs to do in order to get paid. And I work with producers and artists, and I'm not like an artist only or producer only lawyer. But for both of those parties in this ecosystem, I say, it makes sense usually. I mean, there's always caveats here, but usually it makes sense that the artist, owns the masters, so long as the artist pays you appropriately now and later, and appropriately credits you, and you're appropriately getting a percentage of relevant royalties. And usually, the more money paid up front, the less back-end royalties the producer will get later on. Like, I'm doing a music agreement right now for an artist client of mine. They pay their producer very well, and the producer is not getting anything later on. Like, if the song makes $1 million in, like, based on the recordings, he's getting nothing, and that's fine, because that's what they're agreeing to now.
Mm-hmm.
It really depends on the circumstances. So
no, really good.
Let's move on to managers.
Yeah, can we quickly go through the rest? I know, like, this is amazing content, but
let's do like one line for the rest of them. So for managers, if you have a manager, you want to clarify what he or she is entitled to from the revenue you're making, and for how long that relationship is. And you want to clearly define, what they're doing for you, so you potentially have a way out if they're not doing what they plan to do. But a management agreement is an agreement that outlines the rights and responsibility of an artist and a manager. And, surprise, surprise, I have a blog about it. So if you search my name in manager,
yeah.
next one is samples. So samples. This is where people get killed, not literally, a lot of the times. And the bottom line is that if you sample something, you need permission to use the recording you're sampling and the composition that you're sampling. And it's a lot easier and a lot less expensive usually to get permission proactively instead of saying, oh, I had this song and made $10,000. I never cleared the sample. Now what do I do? You're probably going to pay more for that sample once you've made 10,000 or, whatever higher number as compared to if you got permission originally. Right. Many people sample stuff without permission, assuming nothing will ever happen. Many times something never happens, and sometimes you get screwed. Right. Number 8. On that note, number 8, music distribution. So, you want to have an idea of, you want to have a plan of how you're actually getting your music up on different platforms. There's a variety of partners like DistroKid, CD Baby, etc., who are there to help to put music up online. You want to compare them based on what their different programs are, what their costs are, and where possible, some of these companies allow you to have the revenue be split between your team members. So DistroKid, for one, allows you to actually split the revenue that they're paying you between, let's say, you and your co-writer or whatever else. Well, maybe not co-writer, but let's say whoever you want, your producer. So if $100 is made by DistroKid, you can set it up so that DistroKid pays $20 to your producer and $80 to you. But music distribution, you want to make sure that you own the master before you distribute your own music.
Sorry, a quick point on music distribution. Has the game changed with the increase in the advent of social media and different platforms to be able to?
Yeah, well, the bottom line is that the barrier to entry is gone. You don't need a music label to be up on different music platforms. Okay. So, before the DistroKids of the world and CD Babies and the other ones, the names are, I'm having a blank on some of the other names, but either way, earlier on it was hard to get music out to people. Now people mostly consume music digitally. Right. You can have physical distribution through these partners, but you don't have to have a major label or not a major label helping you to distribute your music. The challenge is that if you're not with a label, you're on your own to market and promote your music. Mm-hmm. So, one of the key values, a big one that a label would provide, if they want to, is to market your music and also to pay for the costs of producing the music. If you don't have a label or you're using one of these platforms instead, you're responsible for paying for the marketing. Yeah, and and it's really kind of whatever. The more you put in, the more you get out.
That's right. That makes sense.
Music and media. Essentially, I'm referring to music in, let's say, film and TV and video games and advertisements. And if you want to be able to give permission to have your music be in something, for example, a video game, you need to clearly own the recording and you need to control the composition. So if me and V wrote a song together and I'm the artist, well, I'll say V's the artist, not me. So V's the artist and V and I co-wrote the song together, and Dante produced it. If V wants to be able to give permission to, a video game company to put the song in the game, V needs to ensure that Dante assigns his rights in the master to V, and V either needs me to confirm to V that V controls my share of the composition, or V and I both agree to have the song be placed in the video game. So bottom line, similar to a sample, the rights in the recording and the rights in the composition are needed to have music in stuff. Number 10, the right partners. The most important thing of all, by far and collectively, you want to make sure you're working with the right people. And so whenever, an example is that if someone sends me a management agreement to look at, I would say, well, who is this person? Have you met with them? Do your due diligence. You're essentially marrying your manager, musically, professionally. So you want to make sure, you maybe date a bit first before you get married. and make sure they're the right person for you. Make sure there's someone who will respect you. Make sure there's someone who is, you know, seen as a good person in the community generally, and has contacts and leads and can help you to, you know, take you to the next level. If you're working, you know, if you have a great agreement with a bad partner, that's not going to make the bad partner, you know, be a better partner. So you want to start off with working with the right people and companies before you get into an agreement with them. That's
amazing. Yeah. Thank you for like that content. You dropped a whole lot of knowledge in a short amount of time, and I think a lot of people are going to be really thankful when they see the replay. You know, one of the things with having a live show is sometimes when you do have technical difficulties, it happens live. So apologies for that, for, you know, leaving you on your own for a minute. But, you know, we're learning as we go along here. We linked a few of your, you know, we got Byron's email there. So please, if you want to reach out to him, byron.pasco@edwardslaw.ca. And then, of course, the Edwards Creative Law Facebook group, which you can reach him. I'm sure they'll connect you with him, and you'll get tons of information that way as well. Anything else you want to say before we quickly we go to the next one?
It's already 4:40. Anyway, my last point is that the way to kind of sum up a lot of this stuff is my favorite 9 words, which are you asking someone else, what are your expectations of me and my music? Artist asked producer, co-writer, again, wrote a blog called 9 Words about this stuff, but like it's a good way to start an potentially awkward conversation to make it less awkward. Right. But if you're working with someone else on a project or music, well, in this case, musical project, ask them what their expectations are. Get on the same page about your expectations of each other, you know, before you even think about having an agreement that, you know, you prepare or that you ask me to review or to prepare for you. You know, if you have completely different expectations of what each other is doing, you know, there's no point in, you know, moving forward. So, you know, with this with your program, guys, it's like if V thought that Dante was going to bring on this $1 million sponsor, and Dante thought V was going to do that, you know, and either one of you want to go find, you know, a $1 million sponsor, then it's like, you know, you're not going to proceed with anything. So you want to make sure that the people you're working with are on the same page with you about, you know, what your arrangement's going to be. Awesome.
Sweet. That's good stuff there. Okay, well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us all this information. Like I said, the information is there. We'll listen to the replay again. And for all you musicians out there, we advocate you guys strongly to listen to this again, because there are some tips here that you need to be aware of to protect yourself and your music. And we do need to move on.
Yep.
Yes. So
take care, guys.
We'll see you soon, Byron. Thanks again for doing this. All right.
Thank you, Byron. All the best. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.
All right, V.
That was a lot of information, and that was, I mean, for me, I know I'm going to rewatch the episode for sure.
Absolutely. So let's keep it moving here. We do have a couple times just talking about some of the cover songs that we were pushing this week, because that was the whole theme of the episode. We might have to even revisit this in a later episode too, because there's so much content and we still want to get to our feedback.
Oh my gosh.
So give me some quickly run down the group. What were some of the contributions we had?
We had tons. So we had Blackwood with Walk Off the Earth. Somebody I used to know. Remember that one? We might get into it in a bit. Bones in April, Hurt Johnny Cash again. Federico, Heartbeats by Jose Gonzalez. Eric, Nirvana, Man Who Sold the World, which is a Bowie. James, our boy, old school James Maxwell with This Woman's Work.
That's a cover, eh?
Yeah. It's a Kate Bush cover, who I really love. Who's like a 80s pop artist, really, really good. And then you got Zamet with Cake, I Will Survive. Remember?
Of course, man.
Yeah.
The Cake version of Will Survive is amazing. But go on,
yeah. I know you love the horns.
I do.
Yeah. Mario, Jimi Hendrix, All Along the Watchtower, the original Bob Dylan, right? Nisar and Hallelujah, which is
the most covered song ever, probably. Yeah.
I don't know. It's up there. Jeff Buckley, right? That one's haunting and crazy. I love that one. And then we've got Mervyn with Chris Cornell, who did Nothing Compares to You, which I thought was originally, and I didn't know how I didn't know this, but it's originally a Prince cover, and there's a Sinead O'Connor cover of that as well, which I thought was the original, but it wasn't. So
I thought the Sinead was too.
Yeah, crazy. And then we got a Beat Thee with I Will Always Love You, which is Dolly Parton. And then Paul Caruso, shout out to Paul. He came from left field with Bare Naked Ladies doing Fight the Power. I don't know if you've ever heard that one. It's pretty interesting. Yeah.
No, I've never heard of that. No.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then you got Yael Nem. I'm not probably pronouncing that right, but she did Toxic by Britney Spears, which is really well. Yeah, really cool. Just really haunting and chill as well. Right. And then we've got Grace with Problem, which is Ariana Grande, but Noah Guthrie did a version. And then Alisa did Jerusalem. I don't know too much about that, but there's a dance.
No. Yeah, there was a dance for it. Yeah, I Googled that. It's crazy. It's a craze, yeah.
And then our guest, of course, Byron, Me First and the Gimmies, and they cover like everything, apparently. Like they did like Phantom of the Opera, but it's like, yeah, like they do like all sorts of songs. And those were the
contributions from the group.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just jump into some of our favorites. So the three ones that we want to focus in on were the Fugees, Johnny Cash, and Walk Off the Earth. Actually, there was a fourth one that I want to get in there, but that's okay. But with the Fugees,
say it, yeah, fair. Well, feel free to.
The one that I wanted to push was "Take on Me" by Real Big Fish. Which is, I love the horns in it, guys.
We should put like horns in your name, like Dante.
We should have a horns episode, man. All about them horns.
Oh yes, there you go. Like all that's right, cool. when we get hurting for themes, man. That's where we'll go with it.
We'll go with all about the. So you'll know now when we have the all about the horns episode. You'll know that's the week that we didn't have any ideas. But anyways, let me talk about the Fugees a little bit. That Roberta Flack had the original one. I know there was some dispute about who actually wrote the original one, but that's the one that I kind of gravitated towards. And the Fugees cover of it. The Fugees cover of it was a banger, man. I think that really propelled Lauryn Hill into being a superstar on her own. And it overshadowed a lot of the other tracks that came off that album. Like Ready or Not was another song that came out, and I really liked that one, but Killing Me Softly was a big song. So that was a big one for me. Do you have any points about Killing Me Softly?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, like if you didn't like we were talking with Byron about samples, but that song actually samples Tribe Called Quest, which actually samples another song, Memory Band, and you got it down here. Rotary Connection is the name of the track.
So it's like an inception of sampling.
It's a sample of yeah, and it's just like the one I'm talking about, right? Dun, 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 like the
Bonita
dun, dun, dun. Yeah, there you go. And it's like so that was a really cool thing. Both the Fugees version as well as the version that you mentioned, they both won Grammys, which was really cool. And yeah, like I think they originally wanted to change the concept and the lyrics a bit to being about like an anti-drug song, but the writers weren't feeling it. So goes back to like that whole ownership, concept again, and like they weren't feeling it. But let's keep it moving because we're short on time today. So
real short.
Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash's Hurt, which was a cover of the Nine Inch Nails song by Hurt. Great cover. The thing I like about it the most was the Nine Inch Nails version was very like haunting. It was very desolate and almost feel like a tortured song. And if you watch the video, it really coincides with that. The video is like a time lapse of death, and it's really you kind of feel it. But the Johnny Cash version seems more of like a completionist type of song, like a song for your end of your life, and really kind of like looking back on everything. It doesn't feel as like haunting or as torture to me. It's more of a summary, a melancholy, I guess. I love his voice though in the cover. Like Johnny Cash is just like an old man with a quivering voice, kind of tying up his life and all his loose ends. And of course, if you watch the video, there's a lot of footage from when he was younger, so it kind of complements it quite a bit there. What are your thoughts on the track?
Yeah, well said. I feel like again we were talking about Rick Rubin in previous episodes. He was the one who actually convinced Johnny Cash to do this. Really? Yeah. He was like, and like Johnny Cash was kind of like, wasn't feeling it. He had like a lot of health issues at that point, right? He had something like, I think it was like neural.
He had old age, man. The guy was a millionaire.
No, he had autoimmune neuropathy, or I think it's called. And like he had like that was brought on by diabetes. His body was failing.
Right.
And like, I think it was just the idea to have him be vulnerable, show the vulnerability, and like being at the end of your career, the end of your life. Trent Reznor, the original writer, said that when he heard the song, he was like, okay, like he was feeling it. But when he saw the video, he's like, he felt like he lost his girlfriend. Like, it's like like having his girlfriend sleep with someone else in front of you. That's what he felt like. That, like, with the track, yeah. So it was
that hits different, man. That hits different.
It's like he's just like letting it happen. What are you gonna do? So, but like, for all the Rick and Morty, we talked about Rick Rubin, but you might know this, Dante, the Rick and Morty fans. Thank you, it was on a Rick and Morty episode. Do you remember when Rick like let his like he left his family to the intergalactic union or something?
He gave himself up to the council. Was it the Council of Ricks? I don't know, but he gave himself up to someone, and he got locked up into jail. And that song was playing. Yeah,
it was intense. It was. I got put onto the show by you, actually, and it was like really intense for me that episode. So
that song can really make anything feel pretty
intense. Fair. So there you go. That's all I have to say about that. Should we keep it moving?
Let's do it.
Walk Off the Earth. Burlington's Own.
Got to give some love to the Canadian Contact. Walk Off the Earth. Really cool, unique band. They all play the same instrument, man. What's up with that?
Like, I don't even know how you get like the concept to be like, hey, there's 5 of us and let's play it all together.
Let's all play a giant guitar together.
Like you got one person tapping and one person, like, you know what I mean?
Just plucking one string there or whatever. No, absolutely.
Really awesome. But yeah, if you've seen any of their other videos, like they did like a Beatles, 20 Beatles tracks in like 4 minutes. They've got like this like weirdo like guitar synthesizer where they're like hitting like different elements and
It's a visual spectacle. When you're watching them perform is almost as good as hearing their music. Just seeing the intricacies of all of them using the same instrument at the same time and kind of like the timing of it all. And they're all awesome singers.
Yeah, amazing. I think there's like 3 members now. And after that viral hit, like they went on like the Ellen show, did it live. They secured a record deal after that with Columbia Records. And I think they're just like pioneers with like the whole virality of things. I don't even know if that's a word, but I feel like, like they said it started with them and their iPhone taped to hockey sticks. And now look at them go, and they've got thousands, I think they've got like millions of subscribers on YouTube. So shout outs to them. And the lead singer, Sarah Blackwood, segue there was, I guess that was Jeff Blackwood's reason for calling this song, because same last name there. But she was talking about keeping it humble in one of her interviews. So, humble and hungry. So there it is.
It's all connected here. It's all connected. Anyways, we could go on for days about the cover tracks, and really, I kind of want to give it more of its credit, but we are so short on time, and we want to make sure that we give our featured artist a proper time to talk about her track a little bit. So we want to give some love to Maddisun Music out there. I guess we just call her Maddisun. And she gave us a song to listen to named Fiction.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful song, guys. Fiction on YouTube. Check it out. What were your first impressions of the track?
Just like a very, like, I know she was talking about revisiting trip hop when she created this song. It reminded me a bit of like some more Chiba. I don't know if my old school heads remember more Chiba. And like, with that little retro vibe. And like we were talking about off air, she's just very raw, vulnerable with her lyrics. She just released an album, Self-Reflections, just a week ago, which is getting tons of spins. She's getting blog placements, and I'm really jacked for her. I know like her career is going to take off, and I think she's inspired. You can hear it in her voice. It's really natural, and she's inspired, like she told us, by like mountains and water and Amy Winehouse. So there you go. That's not my thoughts.
The big three: mountains, water, and Amy Winehouse. That's the pantheon of inspiration. Well, what I thought about this, I thought that there were very thoughtful lyrics. I know, like, it's very personal. Like, there's one line where she's talking about crying in her oatmeal, and I know she's got to be talking about experience here. She's talking about experience. She's not just pulling out there because that rhymes, you know. Like, this is something that she actually went through, and an authentic experience that she put into her music. I thought that later in the track, she has some actually clever rhyming schemes. So I'm kind of meticulous, and I try to pay attention to things like that. To your point, V, it is a very personal song. And I was immediately impressed by her control over her own voice. I think that she has, great control over her voice, the ways that she can kind of carry herself with the flow of the beat. I am really curious to see how deep her range is. Like, how high can she go? How low can she go? And the fluidity between that. So I am interested in checking out more of her work and to see if she ever, like, explores that aspect, because she really is sort of a natural vocalist when you think about it there. And it was a pretty seamlessly put together song. It is a little bit haunting, a little bit like that too, personal. But I was feeling it though. I was very impressed. What's the name of the album again? Sorry, V, I missed that.
No worries. Self-Reflections. So I think it's on all streaming platforms. But if you go to @Maddisun Music on Instagram, which is the platform everyone's using these days, you'll be able to get it. And shout out to oatmeal. I love oatmeal. No one should be crying in their oatmeal. No one should be putting their face down, crying in their oatmeal. I had a great bowl today, so I have to shout that out too.
Share that out there. Yeah, so I am looking forward to seeing what else she's got in her catalog there. And I know she's a supporter of the Humble and Hungry family there. So we're looking forward to seeing more of her work in the future. How are we doing, V? How are we doing?
I think we're winding down, but like one of her goals, and maybe she needs to contact Byron at the end of it. She wants to get some placements on TV and film. And, I could see that with this song especially. And one of her other goals, put out an album. She did that. So shout out to Maddisun. Thank you for this submission.
Accomplishing goals there, right? And it's always nice to put something off the list, especially in a year like this where everything's working against you. So congratulations on dropping that. Definitely check out her music, Maddisun Music there. You can see it on screen. And we're looking forward to pumping some more of your stuff in the future. But V, let's wind this down. This was a jam-packed episode, so this is an extra long episode of content for you guys. We are looking forward to next week's show, I believe. Can we give the idea? Can we drop what it is?
Yeah, go for it. I know it was your idea, so it's all on you.
All right, so next week, the episode is going to be about the songs of the summer. What are your favorite songs of the summer? Stay tuned. We're going to have a question of the week for you, and we'll be pushing this throughout the week. But that's all the time we got for today. V, we've got a Raptors game to check out a little bit later on. The sun's still out. Still a lot of day left.
Champions. Yeah.
There you go, baby.
Yeah, let's go. And thanks again to Byron for joining us. Again, this show is dedicated to Jody, our team member, who's going through some really rough times. So we love you. Be strong. And shout outs to Maddisun. And enjoy your sunny Sunday. And we'll catch you all soon.
We'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Peace.